Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. We love to explore those sort of like hidden corners of religious history, and today we're going down a really interesting path. We're going to be talking about the Book of Giants.
Ooh, I love this one.
I know, right? So
Yeah.
it's not part of, like your standard Bible,
Right.
but it's this like really fascinating text that's found among the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
And it gives us this like totally unique perspective on some like pretty familiar biblical stories. So,
It does, and it really is like piecing together
yeah.
an ancient puzzle
Yeah.
because we only have fragments.
Yeah.
And it really does give us this window into how like early Jewish communities
Right.
really grappled with these like larger than life figures and like their role in this world that, seem to be like on the brink of divine judgment.
Yeah, and it's not like giants were a totally foreign concept in biblical narratives, right? I mean, we've got Goliath, obviously, but even
Yeah.
before that, like way before David's, legendary slingshot skills, we got mentions of the Nephilim in Genesis. So
Yes.
what can you tell us about them?
Well, the Nephilim are super fascinating because they're these offspring of angels and human women.
Okay.
So their existence really blurred the lines between divine and human.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right.
Yeah.
Raising all sorts of questions about creation, morality, good and evil, like all of it.
So we're talking like serious cosmic drama here.
Oh, yeah, big time.
So what were like the implications of that mixed heritage? How did that tie into the concept of divine judgment?
So their presence was often associated with widespread wickedness and ultimately led to the flood.
Right.
So you can imagine these powerful beings born from this forbidden union, they're disrupting the natural order,
Right.
tipping the scales towards chaos. So it makes you wonder if maybe some people saw them as like this direct challenge to divine authority.
Oh, that's a good point, like a power struggle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
going
I'm
on.
starting to see why a whole book about giants
Yeah,
would be so intriguing. To
right.
these communities, it's like they're trying to figure out
Yeah,
these powerful beings
yeah.
and how they infect the world.
And how to make sense of them.
Yeah. But before we get into the specifics of the Book of Giants itself, can you give us a little more context about where it was found, like among the Dead Sea Scrolls? What's the significance of that discovery?
Right. So the Dead Sea Scrolls are this amazing treasure trove
Right.
of ancient Jewish texts.
Oh.
They were discovered in the mid 20th century, and they include everything from biblical texts to commentaries to sectarian writings.
Yeah.
So it gives us this unprecedented insight into the diversity of Jewish thought and practice like centuries before the time of Christ.
Right.
So finding the Book of Giants among these scrolls suggests that stories about these figures continued to fascinate and maybe even trouble some segments of these early Jewish communities.
So it wasn't just like a dusty old legend. It was something
Oh.
that people were actively thinking about
Right, it was current.
and writing about.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is very cool.
But I gotta ask, is the Book of Giants like a complete narrative, or are we dealing with just fragments?
Unfortunately, we only have fragments.
Oh, man.
Yeah, just these tantalizing pieces of a larger story.
Like a few pages out of an epic novel.
Yes, exactly. Just enough to get you hooked, but then you want more.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Like an ancient cliffhanger.
yeah. A total cliffhanger.
So what do these fragments reveal? I mean, do we get any juicy details about like the giants themselves, their personalities, motivations, that kind of stuff?
We do.
Oh.
We actually get to meet some of them by name, like Oya and Hahai, for example.
Okay.
And they're portrayed as interacting with humans.
Yeah.
Sometimes with curiosity, sometimes with a hint of conflict. It's almost like they're trying to figure out their place in the world, just as like humans are trying to figure out theirs.
Yeah, totally. And here's where it gets like really interesting to me. Like
Right.
the Book of Giants suggests that some of these giants may have foreseen the coming flood.
They did.
That's a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal. Like, do they know or?
It seems like they had some awareness
Right.
of the impending disaster, and they even sought counsel, hoping to somehow like avoid their fate.
It makes you wonder, what kind of warnings did they receive and how did they interpret them?
Right.
Did they see the flood as like a punishment for their actions, or was it something totally beyond their control?
And that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of how these ancient communities wrestled with ideas of free will, divine judgment, and like the very nature of prophecy.
Yeah, that's heavy stuff.
It is.
And it's not just about like warnings and prophecies, right?
Yeah.
The Book of Giants also delves into the giants' like inner lives, their dreams and visions.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so tell me about that.
The text is filled with descriptions of these vivid and often very disturbing dreams
Oh, okay.
that the giants experience.
Right.
And they're full of like unsettling imagery, crumbling mountains, falling stars, blood-red skies.
Wow.
It's almost as if their subconscious minds are mirroring the impending destruction of the world around them.
I mean, that's powerful imagery.
Yeah.
It's not just like physical destruction, but like
Right.
a sense of cosmic upheaval,
Yeah.
dismantling of the order that they once knew. You can almost feel their anxiety,
Yes.
their desperation to understand, like, what are these dreams telling us?
And their responses to these dreams reveal a lot about how they understood the world and their place in it.
Right.
So some try to decipher the symbolism, they consult with each other. They even turn to Enoch, this prophet figure, for guidance.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're grasping at straws, trying to find some meaning, some way to escape the judgment that they believe is coming.
And how did Enoch respond to their pleas for help? Did he offer them any hope, or was it just all doom and gloom?
Oh, that's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, so stay tuned.
Yes.
Because we're going to unravel those mysteries of the Book of Giants and uncover what it might tell us about our own relationship with fate responsibility and the choices we make in a world facing its own set of challenges.
Absolutely. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Book of Giants. So as we were just discussing, these ancient fragments offer a unique perspective on the familiar biblical story of the flood, particularly through the lens of the giants' awareness of their impending doom and those incredibly vivid dreams they experience.
Right, those cryptic messages woven into their sleep.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating is how the Book of Giants uses those dreams to really explore the psychological and spiritual turmoil
Right.
of these powerful beings.
Right.
What do you make of all that unsettling imagery? Crumbling mountains, falling stars, blood-red skies.
Oh, it's incredibly powerful imagery. And I think you're spot on about that sense of cosmic upheaval.
Right.
What's fascinating here is that the giants don't just passively accept these dreams as inevitable fate.
Yeah.
They actively try to decipher them.
Okay.
They consult with each other and even turn to the prophet Enoch for guidance.
So they're not just like, okay, well, this is happening.
No, they're not rolling over.
They're like trying to figure out, how can I maybe change this? How can I understand it better?
Right, they're looking for a loophole,
Yeah.
a way to outsmart destiny.
Like when you have a bad dream and you wake up and you're like, okay, how do I avoid that
Exactly.
from happening?
And their responses to these dreams,
Yes.
their attempts to understand and potentially even manipulate their fate,
Yeah.
speak volumes about their understanding of the world.
Yeah.
Some scholars even argue that these actions suggest a belief in free will,
Oh,
at least to some extent, even in the face of what seems like predetermined doom.
so they weren't just these mindless forces of destruction accepting their fate.
No.
There was a glimmer of hope, a struggle to understand and perhaps even change the course of events.
Precisely.
Okay, so that adds a whole layer of moral complexity to the narrative.
It wouldn't you say?
I would.
It challenges us to see these giants not just as monstrous figures, but as beings capable of fear reflection and even a desire for something more than destruction.
Speaking of that desire for something more, we touched on the idea that some giants sought to make amends for their actions.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a bit? What do the fragments tell us about their attempts at, for lack of a better word, redemption?
Yeah, while the fragments are, as we've mentioned, frustratingly fragmented,
Right.
we do have accounts of giants like Uhia and Hahe
Okay.
pleading with Enoch to intercede on their behalf.
Okay.
They acknowledge the wrong they've done
Okay.
and express a desire to change their ways
Yeah.
to avoid the impending catastrophe.
That's incredibly thought-provoking.
Yeah.
So they're acknowledging the potential for change, for a shift in their own nature.
It certainly seems that way.
Okay.
And this internal conflict, this wrestling with their own destructive tendencies and yearning for something better,
Yeah.
is what makes the Book of Giants so captivating.
Right.
It raises all sorts of questions about the nature of good and evil,
Right.
the possibility of forgiveness and
Yeah.
the limits of divine mercy.
It makes you wonder if they saw a connection between their actions and the impending doom.
Right.
Like, hey, maybe if we weren't such jerks, the flood wouldn't be coming.
Right. And that's where the Book of Giants starts to resonate with our own contemporary anxieties, doesn't it?
Totally.
We're facing our own set of global challenges.
Right.
Climate change, social unrest, political instability.
Yeah.
Like the giants were trying to understand the warning signs, grapple with our own role in these events, and figure out if there's any way to change course.
It's like we're looking in a mirror, seeing our own anxieties and moral dilemmas
Yeah,
reflected back at us through these ancient stories.
absolutely.
But what about Enoch?
Hmm.
How did he respond to the giant's pleas for help and guidance?
Right.
What kind of advice did he offer them?
Oh, that's where the story takes an even more intriguing turn.
Okay, lay it on me.
Enoch's role in the Book of Giants is multifaceted,
Okay.
and his interactions with the giants offer some of the most thought-provoking passages in the text.
Okay, so what wisdom did Enoch impart?
Well, he didn't exactly offer a simple solution or a get-out-of-judgment-free card.
Okay.
Instead, he presented them with a challenge,
Okay.
a path that required introspection, humility, and a willingness to confront their own darkness.
Okay.
It's almost as if he was saying redemption is possible, but it's not going to be easy. It requires a fundamental shift in your being, a turning away from the destructive patterns that have brought you to this point.
So he offered them a glimmer of hope, but not a guaranteed escape.
Right.
What did the giants make of this? Did they embrace Enoch's teachings or did they resist?
That's what we'll unpack in our final segment.
Okay.
We'll explore how the giants grappled with Enoch's wisdom,
Okay.
the choices they made and what it might reveal about our own capacity for change, and the enduring power of hope, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've been on this incredible journey with the Book of Giants, exploring these fragments and piecing together this story of prophetic dreams and struggles and this looming threat of divine judgment.
It's a wild ride.
It is a wild ride. It really is. And we left off with Enoch presenting the giants with this challenge, this path towards a different way of being.
Yes, and it's fascinating how Enoch's message in the Book of Giants echoes these themes that we see in those New Testament excerpts
Yeah.
that we've been looking at. There's this emphasis on repentance, on turning away from these destructive patterns,
Right.
seeking a more righteous path.
So even though the Book of Giants isn't, part of like the standard biblical canon,
Right.
it's still grappling with these core ideas about morality,
Yeah.
responsibility, and this possibility of transformation.
Precisely. And that's what makes these ancient texts so relevant even today.
Right.
They speak to these timeless human questions about how we deal with power, how we make choices in the face of uncertainty, and how we grapple with our own capacity for both good and evil.
Okay, but back to those giants.
Right.
I mean, they were facing some pretty dire consequences.
Yeah.
Did they actually take Enoch's words to heart? Did they try to change their ways?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
The fragments offer us these glimpses, these tantalizing hints, but ultimately it's up to us
Right.
to interpret how the giants responded to Enoch's challenge.
Yeah.
Some scholars believe that their pleas for help, their acknowledgement of wrongdoing,
Yeah.
suggests a genuine desire for redemption.
So there's hope for them.
Right.
Even those who've committed great wrongs can find a path to forgiveness.
It's certainly a possibility that the Book of Giants raises,
Yeah.
but there are also interpretations that suggest a more self-serving motivation behind the giants' actions.
Okay.
Perhaps they were more concerned with avoiding punishment than with genuine moral transformation.
So it's like they were saying, hey, we messed up. Let's try to smooth things over with the big guy upstairs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that ambiguity, that tension between genuine repentance and self-preservation
Right.
is part of what makes the Book of Giants so compelling.
Yeah.
It doesn't offer easy answers or simplistic moral judgments.
Huh.
Instead, it invites us to wrestle with these questions ourselves, to consider the complexities of human motivation and the enduring mystery of divine grace.
It's like a mirror reflecting our own struggles with those very same questions.
Exactly.
I mean, we may not be facing like a literal flood, but we're certainly living in a world grappling with its own set of challenges and consequences.
Absolutely. Climate change, social injustice,
Yeah.
political polarization. These are just a few of the giants we're facing today. And like those ancient figures in the Book of Giants, we have choices to make.
Yeah.
We can ignore the warning signs, we can cling to destructive patterns, or we can seek a different path, a path that leads to healing, reconciliation, a more just and sustainable future.
I mean, that's a powerful message to take away from this deep dive into the Book of Giants.
It is.
It's a reminder that even in the face of like seemingly insurmountable challenges, we still have agency.
We do.
We can choose how we respond, how we act, and how we shape the world around us.
And perhaps by reflecting on these incident stories, by grappling with the moral dilemmas they present, we can gain a deeper understanding of our own capacity for both destruction and creation.
Right.
We can learn from the mistakes of those who came before us and strive to build a future worthy of the legacy we inherit.
I love that this has been an incredible journey.
It has.
Thanks to the Book of Giants, those New Testament passages, your incredible insight and commentary, we've explored some really profound questions about power and responsibility and the possibility of redemption. And it's given me a lot to think about, and I hope it's done the same for you, our listener.
As you continue to explore these themes, remember the giants, their struggles, their choices, and the enduring questions they pose. May their story serve as a guide, a warning, and ultimately an inspiration as we navigate the complexities of our own world and strive to create a future filled with hope, justice, and compassion.